Mark Hamill. I'm CEO of Architect Global, and we run the European Customer Centricity Awards, amongst other awards, including North America and World Series. We have a fantastic panel of speakers today. We have Mischa Pintchiouk of Echoes AI, Prithwi Dasgupta, CEO of SmartCard, who are also sponsors of our World Series event, and Aslan Patov of Renaissance. The agenda today it's designed to be quite relaxed, and so we'll have a quick welcome and introductions from the panel and their opening statements, and there'll be some questions that I will ask of the panelists, and we'll get their feedback and insight on those. And then at the end, we'll open that up to the floor and everyone can turn their cameras on and unmute if you want to ask any questions. If you have any questions throughout though, please feel free to enter those in the chat. Bit of housekeeping, and if we can just ask you to keep yourself on mute until we open up the questions for the floor. And yeah, as I mentioned, please get your questions, statements ready for the discussion following the opening statements from the speakers, and have fun as well. Okay, so I'm going to ask Prithwi. We discussed before, so Prithwi, you're on the spot first, just to do a quick intro and opening statement. So welcome.
Sure. No, thanks, Mark, for having me. Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone, wherever you're joining in from. It's great to be here. A quick introduction before we get going. I started my career around 22 years back, actually in customer acquisition, which means sales and marketing. So a little bit of sales, and then spent some years in marketing. Then moved on to product management with a product company, financial sector for a bit. And then eventually moved back into sales and marketing, business development. And in my last role as part of the president of a healthcare technology firm, I ended up owning all of these functions, from customer acquisition to maintaining the customer, to growing the customer, to delivering to the customer, the entire gamut as head of the business unit. With SmartCarrot, it's been interesting because what we're trying to do is put all of those learnings around the customer journey into practice using a digital platform and work with our customers in their retention and growth experiences and journeys. What interests me in this area is it's all converging to a fair extent. So whether we call it as account management, we call it as customer experience, we call it as customer success. Mark, great proponent of customer centricity. So it's all oriented towards putting the customer in the center and then looking at what you can do to grow your book of business with them eventually, because that's what it has to end up in for business to be viable. So that's a very brief, sort of background into where I come from, what I'm doing currently. As I look at this topic, Mark, and the rest of the forum here, demystifying digital CX, a few immediate thoughts came to my mind yesterday when I was thinking about this. One is, I think it's good for all of us to step back and look at, the bare bones definition of what do we expect when we are, using words like customer experience. And I say this because a lot of times it gets misinterpreted or restricted only to feedback. It gets restricted to only surveys and sentiments and stuff like that. Whilst it's obviously a little bit more. It's an important component. Feedback is an important component. But customer experience, from my view, is this entire journey. From acquiring the customer, right from that time they first interact with you, to them experiencing your service or your product, getting to use it, and then continuing their journey, growing with you over a period of time. So this entire journey, and what that means is it's a very complex set of interactions amongst humans, amongst systems and humans at times, which is what makes it one, complex, and two, exciting. And then when you throw in the digital aspect of this, all that it means is you now have the ability to track a whole lot more than what you were able to do earlier. So digital enables us to definitely know more, also offers up the options of influencing more through the digital touch points you might have with your customers' ecosystem right now. So if you were to look at this as two broad ecosystems, one your ecosystem and the other the customer's ecosystem, there are a lot of interactions now happening between humans and systems and systems and systems and humans at both ends. And the summation of all of that is really what is customer experience. And when we look at, each of us in our own organizations obviously want to influence it in some shape or form. It can be the entire journey. You may have broken this up and say, I will transform aspects of it to begin with, right? So whether I influence the sales marketing part of customer acquisition in terms of digital experience, or do I do it now, add actual customer service, support, add the whole thing, one flows seamlessly into the other. So there are various variations of this, as I'm sure all of you would have seen. Uh, there are two distinct things I thought, to open up the discussion, I put in front of the forum. Now, by going digital, what excites me, and which is one of the reasons why we started Smart Carrot, was now you can break it up into, it allows you a lot more stuff that you can track and be aware of. What we at Smart Carrot call the intelligence piece of it, right? So there are so many moving parts across tracking, different types of touch points your customers and consumers may have with your ecosystem across the entire journey, as I mentioned. So it's very difficult to do it if it is not digital. And the flip is, now once it is digital, you have all of those moving parts, which means a tremendous amount of data. Now you can start making sense of it and create some general and very, very granular level of intelligence around your customer base. The second part of this equation is, what do you do with that intelligence, right? And I think, again, the option of being digital and leveraging digital allows you to actually automate a lot of these experiences and automate a lot of activities around these experiences. There is a lot of automation enablement which you can provide your actual human resources to enable them to better their interactions with their customers, even if they're doing it human to human as well. So there's this angle to this as well. So between the ability to track, between the ability to choose where you want to influence all of these touch points, generating enough and relevant intelligence around those aspects, and then being able to actually track those to closure, actually influence, do some activities and automate a fair bit of it, I think is where overall the customer experience journey is headed as an industry, especially when you look at it from a digital lens. So that's where, Mark, I think I'll pause for now and let my other co-participants, Mischa and Aslan, also pitch in, and then we could get back to it through the questions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Prithvi. That's really insightful. And I'll pass over to you, Mischa.
Sure. Thanks, Prithvi. I'll align my stars to your story, but I'm the founder of Echo, so we're a voice of the customer intelligence platform. And the reason we're actually doing this is that when I run the customer experience team, or specifically the analytics and insights team at CA Technologies, we actually went through all of that, really, from building out the foundation of what is the user journey, what are the different systems and interactions, all the way to providing the insights and kind of trying to take people to take action on that. What I would actually like to emphasize is really that first part of your story is really the foundation. I think everyone is trying to get into the AI, machine learning world, predictive analytics, personalization, all that, and that is completely the right trajectory. But not having the foundation, not being able to kind of unify that data, have the clean data, and I know this is maybe not the most sexy topic at this point, that might become the biggest challenge before you even get to those type of actions. And so I just want to emphasize this for kind of hopefully this conversation too, is that being able to have that proper foundation before you engage into all these new projects is critically important, because we're seeing that where all these companies have a dozen different tools, not connected, the typical siloed approach where every organization or every department runs their own processes and management systems. And so again, going back to having that data foundation before you even start focusing on kind of the next level digital CX is what is critical. And so that would be my 2 cents here.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mischa. And Aslan? Pass over to you.
Hi, everyone. I see some familiar faces. Good morning, good evening. I'm a founder of Renaissance, a boutique consulting company. We work out of Dubai. Our core focus is on behavioral economics and CX. We're basically trying to bridge a gap between the real human desires and needs and the business needs. Work on processes, journeys, research, implementation, all that boring consulting stuff. But I just want to quickly get that relay from Mischa, where he was mentioning the data part and how important this is to have a data cleansing. I just want to do that before I jump onto a few other assumptions that I have on this subject. You know, data is so important, and I think, Mark, we had one event a few years ago where we talked about data and the data and transformation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you've seen, guys, but there is a Corky website that talks about the different types of correlations. And, you know, we have this tons of correlational models where, for example, a correlation between the number of people died through being strangled correlates strongly with the number of movies where Nicolas Cage appeared in. You know, there is always this, okay, you have the data, but what do you do with that? Yeah, do you really understand how to work with the data? Does it really represent what the human needs? And while we have stages of working with data, should it be the cleansing? Should it be, and we have AI and machine learning. I think these tools are brilliant. And not only to help the customer get a better experience, but rather help us or employees or clients, in my case, enable them to take better, quicker decisions, more agile, and enable a bunch of things like the pillars of customer experience. Sometimes I feel like we're focused a lot on digital while missing the point that digital is just one of the enablers. Yeah, it's a channel technically. Customers don't care about digital or non-digital. What customers need is completely different. Digital is just our way, a more convenient way to get it, you know, put together those ones and zeros and get the real picture of what's happening, make sure that we resolve things quicker, make sure we understand what the real case is behind the customer's situation. How do we help them? How do we make his life better? CX lives outside of digital while being, you know, enabled by it. And there are many other ways of engagement, but digital is the future, however you put it. While in many other industries, we've seen that the backwards effect when customers went into digital and then came back out of it. With our clients in Dubai, we work a lot across the real estate sector, retail, with malls, with actual retail outlets, and we see how important it still is for customers to be treated well. So while we talk about those hard solutions in digital and how that enables the customer journey, also I have to understand how important it is to use digital to understand the real customer needs. And Mischa was referring to AI and machine learning, and then maybe with a bit of mix of behavioral economics to understand what do we do when we engage with customers, how do we behave when we engage with customers, because quite so often it's not about the what. Yeah, it's about the how we do things, how we use that data, how we use the information. And I think one of the biggest problems I've seen, at least in the Middle Eastern region, and some time ago back in Western Europe, is that while trying to transform, we're not really thinking about the basics, about the setup, about the company, about the skills that would make all this thing work. We keep buying great solutions and we just don't really use them properly. When it comes to the impact of digital, I think that's completely my point. I just want to go back to the core. We really have to think about the high order needs and the low order needs, where you have, for example, personalization, right? Knowing about what customer wants and when he needs it. So I would use digital for that. Integrity, building relationships, empathy. Yeah, although empathy is a purely human to human kind of thing, it's about adaptation through maybe machine learning and AI. You know, how do we better reflect what the customers need are by tracking different behaviors across different touch points and then bringing it back to the CX design exercise. how do we manage expectations? That goes back to communications when customer needs that. I keep hearing a lot about the fact that we need to communicate it, that we need to communicate this, we need to communicate that. We keep talking about the customer experience during, for those conversion models when, I call it the carpet comms, when you just send those 360 comms to whoever, whenever. But we really need to understand when to communicate, hence the usage of digital to first understand what is the right time to get in touch with the customer, not just categorizing customers into buckets and then try to use one of those buckets to just get back to the customer on a weekly basis. No, we need to understand those moments, those occasions. We should not be present in a customer's life unless we're really needed. Emotions, another thing, it's a humanly approaching excitement. And then you have a set of lower order needs about which are about the speed, the effort, the resolution. Contact centers is an example. Service over different touch points, should be email, live chat, or other means. The enablement of the customer through the apps or other digital means, websites or social media, reducing the level of effort the customer has and making sure that the customers benefit from the convenience that the digital can bring into his or her life. All these things are derived from basic human needs. These are the ones I think we should be focusing whenever we're trying to roll out anything digital, because it's not about the solution. It's about why we're trying to use what we're trying to implement. And we should be asking these questions to ourselves whenever we're getting ourselves into the digital transformation. The core is important as well. And as I mentioned earlier, while trying to bring all those cool things on board, we also have to keep in mind the people who's going to use it and how they're going to use it. Sorry, I think Mark.
No, absolutely. No, that's fantastic insight, and I think that there certainly seems to be a common thread on understanding people first, rather than, and the example you gave there, Aslan, about the idea of companies spending a fortune on solutions and not using them properly. I think that's the one that keeps coming up for me when I speak to the leaders in customer experience or C-suite, and that's the thing that they've had challenges with over the years. And so that would have been one of my next questions, actually, but I think each of you have touched upon that. So one of the things I would ask is, are there any examples of companies which have really excelled in the last year to 18 months and really transformed their business in terms of digital customer experience? Are there any good examples? I suppose, Prithwi, it'd be natural to start with you again, if there's any ones you can think of.
Yeah, sure. And we are seeing a good spectrum of good digital strategy and bad digital strategy, even in our own set of customers. And I'm sure all of you have experienced that as well. And Mark, I'll handle this slightly differently. I think and to take on from what Aslan mentioned, very important. There are so many of these systems or apps or technologies which you can use in a silo, right? And we are right in the thick of it. And what we are seeing is it's easier. Look, technology has reached a level where the technical solution is not the issue. So I agree with him. Digital implementation or the technology aspect of that is not the issue. It is because customer experience spreads across so many different functions and departments within your own organization. Integrating the people aspect of this is where most of these projects fail, right? So if you have to touch voice of customer, like Mischa mentioned, there's somebody responsible for that. There's somebody responsible for acquiring the customers, head of sales, chief revenue officer. Now they don't get along. There is a political, power play at there, and this is reality, right? If that problem is not solved, you can do whatever you want with the technology. The customer at the end will not have a good experience just because of these internal dynamics. So what I have seen work, and what I have seen people, get a lot of value out of implementing the digital aspects of solutions, including one such as Smart Carrot, is when you are able to solve that interactive problem and say, okay, if you are now culturally aligned and you say it is important that I'm genuinely putting customer first, and then all the functions align accordingly, you will find the technology solution seamlessly being implemented, right? It becomes much easier, and that's where you see a lot of success. It's not, a lot of rocket science really, but that's where it mostly falters, Mark. That's where we've seen. So the difference between the good implementation of a digital customer experience journey and a bad one is really how well the leadership of that organization has thought this through. Like Aslan and Mischa mentioned, that you have the why we are doing it and how we are doing it, and get the people aligned. It has to be a common set of goals, multiple people own in the different departments, and then you'll find all of this flowing in, whether it is 10 systems you are integrating to or 15, and then have your AI layer, ML layer, all of that conversational pieces built in. Those are the simpler aspects of it. So that's how I'd address that question, Mark.
Brilliant. Thank you, Prithvi. Mischa, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Just in terms of actual examples, I would have a look at HubSpot. They have this very kind of strong story around using this CX flywheel of engaging with their customers, acting on that information, and again, just building up this kind of very customer-centric perspective. That's kind of the one company that comes to mind right now.
Brilliant, thank you. And Aslan, have you got any examples? I'm sure, whether it's regional or any ones that you've just, any of your clients, or it doesn't necessarily have to be?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are many examples. I think I would put it this way, the disposable income of the businesses in Dubai specifically, and let's call it this way, and the desire to change, to transform, is leading a lot of transformation programs right now in the Middle East. I think companies use their time to just change. One of the I think key projects that I worked on back in 2017 was the transformation program of one of the real estate companies here in Dubai. And I'm not going to be talking about all the systems they've integrated and so on, but they're represented in not only in real estate. They do community management, they do retail, and they run a lot of things. They've launched more than 60 communities in the last 10, 15 years, and their call center was going completely crazy. So they wanted to reduce the load on the call center by 60%, I think, or 70%. At the same time, they wanted to provide better customer service. They've launched an app, whether you're an investor or you are someone who just owns an apartment or a villa, you could see all your assets as an investor, or you could see your apartment, we could manage it. And the most important thing here was probably the self-service bit, because people don't want to be hanging on the phone waiting for someone to respond. People don't want to be sending a ridiculous amount of messages over the email, trying to remember what was the plot number that they had, what was the villa number or an agreement number. No one keeps these things in mind. And while the solutions seem to be really simple, the back end of the solution and the whole project was not that simple. However, they've managed to both improve the employee experience through it, decrease the costs on the business, and significantly improve on the customer experience, because customers got much more than just reduced time on the call. They got better expectations management. They got a clear view on what's happening with their assets, and so on and so forth. Another good example would probably be the banking industry. We know that in Europe, we have a lot of great banks, but the transformation did not happen on time. And now we have a few purely digital startups, right? And then we have companies in the Middle East, Eastern Europe, who are doing either purely digital banking. These companies don't have branches. And a lot of companies, when the era of digital banking just started, they were thinking that it's impossible. You need to build a bond with the customer. You need to make sure that the customer trusts you with his assets, with his money. But as we see today, customers prefer the convenience and they're going after that rather than just the trust that a certain banking entity has. A lot of things are resolved through live chats. You don't call anyone. You want to reissue the card, you can do it. You want to shut down the account, you can do it. You want to get a credit card, you can do it. You have an issue, you want to update your documents, you can do it. There is nothing, you don't need to visit a branch, you don't need to go anywhere. Everything happens over a quick live chat conversation with an agent. So I think these are probably the best examples that I can give right now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Aslan. And I think what we're going to do now is just open up to the floor for any questions. So if you feel comfortable, please feel free to turn your cameras on and ask any questions.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Charlie.
Here. How's things? All right?
Great, great. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And thanks very much to the three contributors there. It's an area that I'm fascinated by, you know, just in the research of it and looking into this whole area of digital and human skills, because it's certainly both. Let's all agree on that 100%. But linking it to, and this is probably, I'm thinking out loud rather than asking a question, but the question will come in the last couple of seconds, believe me. So looking at the future skills required in various sectors, you know, it could be retail, it could be hospitality, it could be tourism, it could be civil engineering. What seems to be quite common is that the future skills are being broken down into three areas. One being the product knowledge. So if it's civil engineering, you need to know something about civil engineering. If it's retail, you need to know something about retail and the products you're selling. The second is digital skills, and the third is human skills. The misalignment that I'm seeing is that human skills seems to be the one that is most sought by the consumer, by the customer. So if we look at retail, and I'm calling from Ireland, there's a breakdown in retail in Ireland that the future skills in retail in Ireland is going to be basically 33, 33, 33 in those three areas: product knowledge, digital skills, human skills. However, Ireland as a country invests 80% of its educational budget on digital and IT skills and learning, and 12% of its budget on soft skills and human skills. To me, there's a misalignment there. To me, we have gone too far into the digital skills, which is correct because it is needed. You know, the last speaker said convenience is what's been requested. But is there not a swing of the pendulum too far towards digital, and does there not need to be an emphasis on soft skills, human skills learning? And either one of you can
Yeah.
Anyone want to go first?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, go ahead, Aslan.
Right. Thanks, Charlie. I think the pendulum is going to come back. Yeah, we've seen it so many times, and I do believe that to foster the digital thinking and the solutions, we probably need those investments. I cannot agree or disagree on the 70 or 80% of the investments going into digital. I would rather disagree. There is a complete disbalance, and I do believe that nothing is going to change in our nature. We're going to remain humans. As I said in the beginning, we're, you know, I think we're paying too much attention on digital. Like, digital is just a means to interact, a means to create and deliver solutions. The solutions are important. What they do is important. I would be quite curious, since you said that there is 70, 80% of investment into digital, into what exactly they're trying to invest, because as a subset of digital, you might have digital psychology, you might have behavioral thinking, you might have, it's really hard to break it down. But once it comes to digital, is it the programming skills, Is it the understanding of digital in the context of humanity? I do believe there has to be some sort of program. I would be very curious to see what exactly they're investing in. But I also believe that, as you said, the balance is too skewed towards the digital. It's actually good that they thought about the human skills. I also do agree greatly with you when it comes to the product knowledge. I think we keep telling this to a couple of our clients all the time, because they keep selling. You can walk into any store that is selling chewing gum. Probably the seller of the chewing gum is going to be able to tell you more than about the products that that are being sold in auto dealerships, for example. They just shrug their shoulders. And as we know, the consumer is much more educated today than the average salesman, unfortunately. But again, going back to that, I do think that it's the pendulum is going to just get back. I don't think it's going to last. We know that many people who are taking these decisions are being invested into certain things, and they do think that this is their way out. But the world is a much bigger place, and I think that in many other places and countries, they do realize the importance of the soft skills rather than just the digital.
One just additional perspective to this, Charlie. I think it's a very important point you brought up. What I've also seen in a few instances is you flip that problem a little bit on how do you use digital to actually improve the soft skills of the resources. Look, digital is universal. I mean, it can be used for anything and everything, including improving the soft skills. We have seen this even with some of our customers, customer success managers using our platform. How do you know that this resource is going to perform better than another resource, or which team member needs help? You can track a lot of that using the digital technologies, using intelligence, using algorithms, and then actually help them. That you need help in your negotiating skills, or you need help in time management. You are not completing all your tasks on time. You have a lower response rate in case of a contact center resource, for example, right? So these are areas you need help, and this is instantaneous help, right? We are connecting the need for help to providing the actual help also, and all of that can be digitally done. So I think your point is very valid, but can you move the radar of digital into solving that problem, if that is what is identified as what is required for your organization? That also is another perspective I thought I'd provide here.
Great, thank you, Prithvi. And Farhan has put his hand up. So do you have anything you'd like to add there, Farhan?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's a very interesting debate and something which is very close to my heart as well, the human factor in the digital. And I think the point is quite all right that it's moving into I feel that it's become like a race for organizations to run after, oh, this bank has already done it, or that organization has done it. I need to do it, otherwise I'll be left behind. And somebody would say, hey, you didn't do it and I did it. But I think because of this pandemic, if organization can find the right balance, that's very important to know where they need to stop. Let me give you a couple of examples, because that's how I like to reiterate. Let's say I love ordering food. And I love the digital part of it, because now I can go to ontalibat.com and everything, and I'm just done it. I don't need to call anyone. And my order is taken. Even I can see when the driver is on the way. I can see but that driver is a human being. So who's going to deliver that pizza to me, which is going to be warm on time, that I'm going to enjoy that, is always going to be a human being. It's not going to be replaced by a robot. So the organization needs to understand which part of digital is going to be. And let me, I'm sure we all have credit cards from different banks. Now, the biggest thing the organizations say, onboarding. So onboarding has become digital. Everybody, it's amazing. You sit online and you can order, you can just get a credit card or open an account. But do you know, have you tried canceling your card? It's very easy. It's a one touch. You can just go online on your mobile app and you can just cancel your card, but the banks do not let you. A customer experience representative or retention officer calls you, tries to convince you, tries to sell something and make sure that you stay. So that's the balance. It can be easily digitized, but they don't let it because there is a financial impact there. So if we understand and organize, however, there is a dark side to it as well. You call, just like somebody was saying, call center. I'm tired. You try to call IVR. It takes you in a loop. You are unable to talk to a human being unless your emergency. There is a reason why you're calling. If you want to check a balance, you can check it online. So you're calling a call center because you want to talk to someone. But most of the banks and most of the organizations deliberately hide that digit where you can go to an agent. I'm not going to take a name of a organization here. It's impossible to go through so I have found a way out, and I say, oh, I have a dispute. The moment that virtual reality voice hears that I have a dispute, say, oh, I'm so sorry you have a dispute, I'm going to transfer you to an agent. So that's not the right way of going into the digital, and that's a poor customer experience. So the right balance needs to be found. Thank you.
Thank you, Farhan. Charlie, I suppose that answers some of your questions, is it?
Yeah, I think, long may the discussion continue, because, there's no wrong or right in this. This is the reality of it, and the person in the world that, could have gained most from the digital was Steve Jobs. And before he died, he said that the digital is here to enhance the human touch, not to replace it. Mm-hmm. And, I'm always mindful of that, is that, and Farhan gave a fantastic example there. The digital is here to support the human touch, but I do believe that the pendulum has gone too far digitally. The convenience is fantastic. I think we must realize, and this is another discussion, not maybe for this platform, but if you take education, I have a young lad doing civil engineering, and I continuously ask him how much of that is human skills, and he keeps on saying none. So what happens when he qualifies as a civil engineer and he's faced with people in a room? What's got him ready for that? It's not there.
Absolutely. And thanks for that, Charlie. You just put your hand up. Do you have a question?
Not really a question, just rather a comment based on what Charlie was saying as well. I think there is this element here that I had a conversation with a friend the other day that I think that we've become I think the pendulum has gone, and I don't think it's coming back. That's my opinion. So I disagree with that. So I think we're gone and we're staying here. People are so removed and they're so used to now clicking their fingers and getting something so fast that that's not going to change. So this 80% that you're talking about, I have a feeling it's not changing, that we're not going to get a more distributed distribution of focus, because the human needs are changing. This need to have everything so fast has changed. And from business point of view, there would be a big space and a big value for companies to stand up and say, no, we need to bring this back. We need to be more about the people. But at the end of the day, if you bring that to a board meeting and saying, okay, we need to, and then I also shared an image in the group comparing Revolut to other banks, and it's just an example. The second you try to say, hey, let's engage more with the clients, but it's not going to work, because there's so many studies around. There was something like 1 second of delay on Amazon's website, let's say, it would cost them $1.6 billion in a year if they had a 1 second delay. So this is just showing this need that people want things so fast and so quick that's where we are. That's where we are right now. And I don't think it's going to change, unfortunately.
Thanks, Sashi.
Maybe a pessimistic view.
No, that's good. Look, we need both sides of the fence, don't we? So, Mischa, I don't know if you have any feedback on that or any thoughts?
No, actually, Charlie's point, I agree. I think the reason for that, though, is that a lot of these companies are just trying to catch up. And at some point when that playing field is leveled, I think that's where we will start seeing a more shift towards that personal EQ, empathy type of environment, simply because, especially in B2B, you need to know how to have these conversations. And so again, that may be the fact that we're over rotating on digital right now is because a lot of companies, organizations just don't have a choice. It's do or die. But once that's settled, I think we will go back to kind of this augmented aspect of using digital, using technology, but still being human.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like there's an interesting article I read quite recently, and it was like that famous saying, "People buy people," and that applies. I think all of us agree with that, or would like to think that's the way they operate. But the examples that they were giving were shocking. It was like, people go into their local shop to buy, I don't know, a fridge or clothes in a local high street, wherever they are in the world, doesn't matter. I think this one was looking at UK, but the same would apply. And what were they doing? They were going and checking online, and if it was cheaper by £10 or 15 euros, whatever it was, guess where they were buying. That's the reality of it, and that's the people side. I think for B2B, as you mentioned, Mischa, I think it's impossible to remove that. It's essential, but for some of these things where there's just so much choice, and Aslan, you mentioned about how educated customers are, more educated than salespeople sometimes. How do you remove that? How do you change that mindset? I think it's quite difficult, especially with the last year with Amazon, which you mentioned. It's basically taken over a lot of the operations because people aren't allowed to trade. So that's a different conversation, I suppose. But how do you go back to that, where people are actually buying locally from rather than just the touch click of a button? I think that kind of comes into it as well.
That was an interesting point that Mischa made, that at one day there will be a level playing field. But and maybe COVID helped to speed that up, that lots of people are doing stuff now. So maybe that date in the future comes sooner, but I don't see it in the next few years, because everyone's going to be chasing to get to that level of instantaneous responses and experience. And maybe later it levels off, and then people start to realize that actually they're robots and they're setting some sci-fi movie and they need to bring it back. But I'm not sure how long before that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions from the audience?
There is one example I'd like to came to my mind since we are discussing this. So very recently, I experienced a demo with a friend's place of Peloton. Any one of you have used Peloton?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seen it? Yeah. So you see, it's again a good example of taking a business which is a very high touch or human touch business, very private, and bringing it using digital to your home. I mean, that has disrupted. There is a reason why they have done well and they have a unicorn status. It's just, I believe, a good example of how to use. They have not taken the human touch away completely. They've actually brought it to your home in a very private environment. So you can actually interact with another human, if required, with a lot of humans actually through the console, right? So but at the convenience of your being at your own home and doing it at your own pace and on time. So I think it's a good balancing act. And I think, Shi, to your point also, whilst there is a mad rush to automate, digitize blindly, I think all of us will get better at implementing it in a balanced manner as well, and enabling the human to actually reap the benefits of the digital. So we are seeing this. There's a lot of ask for how do I reduce my bandwidth in terms of repetitive activities, right? So as a customer success or a customer experience practitioner, I have so many moving parts to handle in a day, and a lot. What parts of it can be automated? Now that is a good example of enabling the human by saying, okay, repetitive tasks. I need to create a report at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month. Can it be automated? Absolutely, yes. Why should you have to go and query for different customers the same report created? All of that can be automated, emailed out to you, to your boss, to your entire hierarchy, to the customer if required. That is a good example of enabling the AI piece or the augmented piece and the automated piece into enabling the actual practitioner and saving them time, thereby making them having more time to interact with their customers, if you will, face to face, right? So there is that angle of digital transformation also, which is far in between. I agree with the general sentiment that it's not being seen too much, but it is there. At least I'm seeing it, maybe because we are right in the thick of this. But in bits and pieces, that's something I thought might be interesting to people here.
And that's what Charlie said about it being an enabler. That's enabling your teams to do a bit more with their clients. So Aslan, you have
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to connect with what she said and Mischa. I would like to just bring some optimistic insights, because what really changes is not the needs. Needs don't change. What changed our expectations, and digital is changing our expectations. What she was talking about when he was referring to the speed, for example, and so on. But then the point that Mischa made is quite important, and just want to make sure that we agree on something. In the end of the day, humans remain humans, and our basic needs, they do not change. They reflected through other things in life, because we see some innovations happening in the entertainment industry. We discover ourselves throughout our lives, and things change for us. What we need doesn't change. What we expect changes constantly, and your expectations are going to be as high as the latest exposure that you had to latest technology, service, or product. But the empathy, the importance of emotions, the use of digital in making that happen, that's not going to change. And that's why I'm saying that we will eventually get back to the point when we're going to be fed up with digital as a tool, as an enabler, we'll start thinking about, okay, how do we make sure that it's like the creation of language, right? You start communicating with whatever you can, and then suddenly you start creating sentences. Digital will be used eventually, and we already see examples, different companies trying to use digital to understand the customer better, to serve him better, for example. Digital is eventually going to be used to do the same thing that we're doing today for the sake of the customer, of the same customer needs that we're trying to cater towards today. It's just going to be an enabler.
Thank you, Aslan. And Anil has put his hand up. Do you have a question? Anil? Oh.
Hi, this is Anil. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Anil. Yep.
Sorry, I don't know. I want to turn on the camera. I'm getting ready in my bathroom right now to go to work.
Don't worry. It's all right.
Sorry, it's California time.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure. I made sure I turn on the volume. Just want to say hi to Prithvi first of all.
Hey, Anil. Been a while.
A while is decades, man. Nice to hear your voice. It's very nice. I just was listening for last since 8 o'clock the conversations, and a lot of conversation are from technical perspective. I see, as an engineer, worked in technical side, I hear a lot of conversation, but I work for a retail company. I oversee the e-commerce business, and we are in the mid of expanding, turning the whole thing into a digital side of it. As you all talked about it, there's no choice. We have to go digital. And, and I just started changing a lot of things, and we're looking into CRM software right now, checking in the many ways, which one is good for us, which one is not. Obviously, the money plays a big factor into it, how much we want to pay for it. But my biggest challenge, just want to share it with you guys as a user side, no matter how much our customer wants, the best experience, the quick fashion, Amazon way, or, whichever Walmart way, or, Target way, we know we can't afford that much money. Okay, so money as a business people, but we do want to give the same service to them. But the challenge I felt on my side, just want to share with you guys, as a user of this technology, is the lack of support from a lot of these companies who are trying to digitize the businesses. And I think that's where some of these software making companies can help us out to improve the customer experience by educating and not to only educating their users or customers, which we are the customers for them, is also providing a support after we are using it. I give you example. I just integrated a chat system into my website, and it has a lot of features. We haven't even explored that many, and we want to get into their artificial intelligence categorizations in every way. And all I'm trying to do is reach them and give me a rundown of all the features they have. Man, I can't talk to anybody. I get this email, which is 24 to 48 hours late, and it's just irritating on my behalf. I'll tell you, maybe we're not a big customer for them, but I feel small businesses has more power to build any of the business out there who are trying to cater to the end consumer also in some form or fashion. So that is my input from my side. As I said, we can talk about the customer and technology, but in between, people who are going to use that technology and provide the customer experience, they can use it better if we get a better support at the end. I hope I'm a little bit more clear into it.
No, it's clear. I suppose that's one for Prithvi. That's a good one for you, isn't it? That's right up your street, I would say.
Yeah, I'm sorry Anil had to go through that experience, because obviously it's not walking the talk in terms of that whichever organization we chose to work with. But it's a valid point though, Mark, because we didn't discuss about this, but the general awareness of and education of how to utilize the technology the best and the most optimal way is also lacking. So which causes a lot of these perceptions as well, because you do have knee-jerk adoption of technology. You say, hey, I need this. There's a board directives that you need a customer experience software or a voice of customer software or a customer success software. Okay, get 5 demos, choose one, implement, get going. So that's the most common route and not necessarily the best route. So again, going back to what I think all of us have discussed last half an hour, that you have to be very clear what is it that you want, and draw the boundaries there. And in that context, look at your digital adoption, and then the relevant technologies will flow in. But it's a valid point that I think as technology vendors, we need to also wear this responsibility of educating our customer base. Definitely will be better.
Brilliant. Thank you, Prithvi. We've got time for one more question. If there's anyone on the floor would like to ask a question or make a final point. Any final points, Aslan or Mischa? Turned off the microphone to just nod your head. That was the best one I've seen, I think. There we go. Sorry, Aslan.
Just
you see, I'm not as digital after all.
That's the best one I've seen. Go ahead, Aslan.
I think trying to sum up, indeed, it's important that digital is more and more embedded into our lives, and people like Mischa or Prithwi just bring those solutions which can help us employ better tools and better techniques and make the overall customer experience better. But we should never forget about the actual customer and his needs. I've seen so many organizations that are being driven by DT or IT departments, and it's not always a successful venture because they completely exclude what the customer actually needs. We first have to think about these needs. Yeah, we have to think about what he's exposed to and how, and we have to think about the soft part of the interaction, the hard part of the interaction. We have to think about what is our goal. Yeah, there has to be a certain vision. What is our customer experience is going to be about, and then we should then define what exactly we should be doing. It shouldn't be the other way around. Oh, there is a cool CRM system that just popped up in the market. I'll go and buy it. No, that's not the case. We need to understand why and how we should be using it. I think Anil was making this point as well. And then once we know exactly what we want to do, that's the time to build the infrastructure around it. Like, I'm not gonna go in the last 2-3 days and sleepless nights. We've engaged with a couple of clients, and it was a ridiculous time when we were like, okay, so there is a customer management department, and you people keep having DLP issues. So, you know, there is a data loss prevention in place, but it's not in place. The processes are not set. And then when they asked the IT DT department to do the data masking, they literally shut everything down. The employees could not call people. They could not get in touch with them. Customers wouldn't be able to register on the portals, and so on and so forth. Sometimes we just need to stop, you know, take a breath, think about what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, and then make sure that we're enabled by the right digital set to get where we want to get. And never forget what the real customer needs are about. It's not necessarily what we think we know about the customer. And the point about the data in the beginning was exactly about that. Data does not necessarily, you know, with all those surveys and stuff, we push the customer into a certain position when he's supposed to reply something, and he gives a response based on what was provided, on the choice set that we gave him, on what he thought at that point of time, based on what he felt at that point of time. In behavioral economics, we know precisely what's happening when we're on that down slope when it comes to the negative thinking, right? If you don't feel about it right now, everything is going to be seen in negative light. We have priming and anchoring effects. We have the fallacies. Do we really understand the customer? Do we really know what the customer's needs are before we start implementing anything? That's the biggest question I think we should be having whenever we go into the digital environment.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Aslan.
Great pitch.
Thank you so much. So thank you very much, Prithvi, Mischa, and Aslan, for your insights today. It's incredible. And I really like the direction that it took, talking about the human element and as you said, Aslan, at the very end, you know, this goes back to what the customers need and what they're looking for. So thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, please keep in touch with us. We'll be sharing some information afterwards, and have a great day or evening or wherever you are. Aslan, you probably need to go and enjoy your weekend where you are. And day's just kicking off for you, Prithvi and Mischa. So
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.